Hey guys, Drewski here. Today we're back with another video about the future of the ARMA franchise. Finally got this video done after about a week. I got a little bit busy on this video and a few other videos, and then also Ukraine happened. The first modern military versus modern military war we've seen in decades, especially with global implications. I was just kind of shocked, as well as I had people that I knew that were stuck in Ukraine trying to get out, and I was just distracted last few days by all that. In the past few months, we've been able to sip off some cool little screenshots and hints as to what the future of ARMA could be, but as of late, we've been actually able to read about the dev process, engine details, features, and direction of the new ARMA game. I'd be pretty confident to say that after today's video, you'll have a good idea as to what sort of ARMA game is coming next. There's been a lot of digging behind the scenes in the community to figure out what these screenshots mean, and all sources that we're going to be discussing today are also publicly available. Official interviews, blog posts, not leaks or rumors. They're also linked in the description below this video if you'd prefer to not hear me talk about it. In a recent interview on a site called 80.lv, he interviewed the project lead on the Infusion project, which is Pavel Safar. Pavel was kind enough to share some insight into the beginning of the engine's development. He discussed how the engine has been in development since 2014 and entered a much heavier dev stage in 2018 onwards. Their first test, fun fact for this engine, was to port the Tanoa map from ARMA 3 and have it run on a PlayStation 4. It doesn't say whether they did it successfully. I'm guessing their test being, him saying it here is probably successful, which is very interesting. So at one point, they might have had a functional version of the Tanoa map on a PlayStation 4. They also released some new screenshots of the engine, with the first one being this one here. This immediately blew me away. We've seen photos of the Infusion engine before, publicly posted last year, and they were small scale. They didn't really showcase a lot of distance. They didn't showcase a lot of the scale of whatever this new engine is going to be. This one blew me away. Those object shadows go all the way to that port. That's new. ARMA 3's max detail shadow range, max default shadow range for objects is 200 meters, and even they aren't really fully transparent or non-transparent until about 150. If I saw this screenshot on my phone, I'd probably think some hiker just took a photo of some eastern seaside village. The color palette, extremely photoreal. I mean, check out the shadows on the rocky cliff to the right. Just, wait a second. I know this valley. And so did the rest of the ARMA community. This is Everon. Twitter user Jarsky even went to the ARMA 3's Everon port to grab a screenshot of the graphics difference from the modded port to the official Infusion test thing. Oh boy, it's different. I even went back in Cold War Crisis and looked at the same valley, and yeah, definitely Everon. Next, a low camera image of a grassy meadow between two forests. Volumetric fog in the trees, high-resolution grass, and a very far-reaching object view, so you can even see the trees on that next mountain. I know that sounds barely impressive, but this is because this sort of view distance is only playable in the current ARMA game if you're in, like, the editor in single-player alone. In a multiplayer mode with 30 players and AI, you're running this sort of draw distance at something like 25 FPS. Pavel then goes into details about how the new Infusion engine has many more possibilities when it comes to scale. We want our world to be big and open with no artificial corridors, sounds like ARMA. The second is world simulation, mainly the day-night cycle and weather. For this, we need to have very accurate atmosphere simulations, including clouds. It sounds like BI really took the feedback in the graphics department here. ARMA 3 has nice textures and nice models, but also is such a large game in scope that there's no way the devs could focus on rebuilding the engine to have higher fidelity graphics back in 2013. It sounds like they're working heavily in the dynamic lighting department too. We want you to be able to navigate the environment via the stars in our games, or at least have the moon serving as an indirect light source that can guide you at night. We want different lighting indoors and outdoors. We want to have lakes, rivers, big rocks, roads, dirt roads, power lines, and many other audio-visual elements which will give you the feeling that you're inside our worlds. We have had all of those things that he mentioned, except for one thing. I'm pretty sure you could navigate using the night sky in ARMA 3. There were big rocks, dirt roads, and power lines, but rivers weren't real. Water surfaces were always flat, and half the time the terrain would just dip into the ocean beneath the map to simulate a river. It'd be cool to see if there's more smaller streams in the future ARMA games, what sound effects they'll have for little waterfalls and stuff. I know that might seem trivial, but I've got like 4,500 hours in Arma 3 and probably 1,500 in Arma 2. And most of the maps we play in our Arma Ops, they're from Arma 2 or even Arma 1. We played an Arma Op last week that had a map from a game that was released in 2006. We are playing in 2022 3D maps that were made in 2006. That's like saying that you play a Milsim game that has Valhalla from Halo 3 in it. That's like saying that I'd play a Call of Duty game primarily in maps that are ported from COD 3. Like that's how old 2006 is. COD 3 came out in 2006. So to say I'm a little excited about even the smallest of environmental improvements is only scraping the surface. Also, because of the way the lighting was rendered in Arma 3, the headlights of cars and flashlights on guns barely have any throw at all, even under night vision goggles. In real life, a car's headlights can throw visible light about a quarter mile under nods. In Arma, this just isn't a thing. I'm sure dynamic lighting in the old engine for Arma 3 just wasn't really doable. I mean, there's so many objects and shadows you would have to render in the optimization, it probably just couldn't happen. So the flashlights got scaled back quite a bit. A fun fact though, I was playing Cold War Crisis, the first game in the Arma franchise, just last week, and the throw of headlights is farther in that game, a 2001 game, than in Arma 3. Obviously the lighting system is a lot simpler back then, so it probably was easier to lengthen that light to a realistic distance, but still, it's cool to see. I was shocked by it when I saw it in game in a 2001 title. This photo of a quaint little pond also shows the insane improvement to water detail. High resolution ripple effects in the water, definitely better than Arma 3, and I definitely noticed the high resolution ground textures that were off to the left a little bit. Maybe 100 meters away, Arma 3 used to not do these too well because in the distance you'd see basically a satellite picture image. Up close you'd see that high res texture replace that ground texture, but between the two was this weird amalgamation of LOD loading in, ground textures changing. It always didn't look very good to look at ground textures about 100 meters away in Arma 3 or 2 or 1 or all of them. This next photo probably is the most impressive of the bunch. It's the coolest of them all in my opinion. Bam! Wow, look at the lighting! This is the next Arma game and it looks, or maybe Arma demo, and it looks awesome. Look at that distant flood coming from the cabin windows up in that house. Look at the thin clouds just glazing over the horizon. The tower reflecting that collision light. And the rear lights on those trucks just, whoa! I can't wait to see soldiers walking around vehicles being illuminated by those lights. Imagine the blue glow of like a BMP's interior lighting. Everyone jam-packed in the back of there on the way to a mission. And the lighting, just, you can tell this game looks very impressive in the graphics department, and they've done a lot of improvements to that lighting. Check out the truck reflecting the moonlight. Like, damn. Pavel goes into how skyboxes simply can't be used for a game like Arma, as the sky is fully rendered and must be dynamic. We've invested a lot of effort into physically simulating the sky as closely as possible. We removed the cloud rendering technology we used in DayZ and wrote our own. It took some time, but we were satisfied with the results like detail, render distance, shadows, etc. We completely rewrote the renderer. It is no longer DX11 on PC as it is in DayZ. Instead, the rendering backend is written in DX12 so we can heavily optimize. This is extremely good news. Arma 3 has always been CPU bound. I would say if I were to plug in my old 750 Ti into my AMD 16-core 5950X build right now, and I were to play Arma 3, my frames would be 10% difference in a multiplayer server. I'm not shitting you. There is so little GPU used when you play Arma 3, it is laughable. If you didn't know, DayZ used to run fully on the old RV engine, and then in 2019 or something, it jumped to the new Infusion renderer, and it doubled the frame rate in some areas, while also greatly improving the graphical fidelity and potential for future graphics enhancements. This version sounds like it's a whole improvement on top of that entirely. Is this the first time we're gonna play a new Arma game at any higher than 60 FPS? Dare I say, we'll find out. Here's a photo of a sunset scene with the new rendered clouds. In my opinion, this was the least impressive of the bunch. I'm not a game designer or developer in any way. The closest I got was I made maps for a free-to-play first-person Unity game back in 2012. I didn't get paid because I was a kid. I don't know why I helped out and did free work, but there we go. But I have no idea how hard it must be to make games look real. This doesn't look perfect in my opinion. The fog is a bit too bright if the sun has already been set. The clouds seem a little flat I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but I'm sure that this is a photo that if I could fly around the landscape and look at the area as a whole, it would be a lot more impressive. And bottom right says work in progress footage. I can't really diss it very much. Pavel states weather effects are driven by our new weather editor. There are literally hundreds of sliders and curves you can use to achieve your needed effect, as well as the transition from one weather state to another. One of the most impressive things about Arma 3 was when you had inclement weather. Dark mornings with thunderous rainstorms or sneaking through the fog on UTES to sabotage a Russian base. If the weather system is improved in any way, I'm a happy man. I mean, Arma's always been cool with inclement weather, so I'm excited to see what rainstorms look like, what thunderstorms at night looks like in this. It's going to be really cool. The next photo shows what I guess is immediately after a rainstorm. You can see the muddy road reflecting the skylight and the grass around it soaking in the light a little bit better. And this photo has a barn what? I can't read. A barn light illuminating a puddle. Wait, puddles? Puddles haven't been a thing in Arma. Like, ever. There have not been puddles. I'm not talking about the pre-placed texture assets, all right? I'm speaking real Texas-born, corn-fed puddles. I'm talking real shit. World War I, Battlefield 1, mud and blood puddles. Obviously, these aren't just going to be lying around when it's sunny, so we can see from an earlier Infusion sneak peek photo that the ground gets reflective when touched by water, like real life. This isn't a preset map. This probably was coded to calculate how long it's been raining and accordingly adjust the shine factor of objects, the additions of puddles maybe, and the screen space reflections in real time into our eyeballs. Pavel also discussed how the synchronization of clouds had to be done for multiplayer. Clouds are in sync between clients so that if one player is walking in a cloud shadow, that the other player won't be able to see him standing out in the sun. This wasn't a huge issue before, well, because there weren't cloud shadows. Really, the world just got generally darker as more clouds flowed in, so the dynamic cloud issue was non-existent. Here's a photo of seemingly the same house we saw earlier in that other night photo as the moon is in the same direction in phase, and there's Mr. Tower Boy off to the right, not blinking this time. The flood I mentioned earlier is a bit easier to see here. Check out that window light expanding outside the house and hitting the grass. Nice. Here's the interior of a barracks room, it seems. You can see the sunlight entering the window and realistically interacting with this bunk. Three things I noticed. This floor reminds me of a carpet from my grandparents' cabin in New Mexico. These planks from the wall are not flat and are beginning to warp a little bit. And there's zero shadow cast from this bunk to this wall. Bad game, won't buy it. Our very last photo is one of the ground texture near a beach. To put this simply, this is a flat texture that uses a form of displacement mapping that they've actually used in older games. You know how I know? You can see some artifacting here that isn't perfect, and I recognized it immediately from Arma 3's terrain. I went back to grab a simple example, and yep, that's the same, though this is looking at a texture very up close. At head height, you don't see those tiny artifacts, and the rest of the image, although very out of focus, looks damn good. Look at the way the watercolor transitions from shallow to deep. Damn, that looks so good compared to Arma 3. Please. Pavel goes on to say, our current plan is to release a game demo that will demonstrate the engine's abilities. I also assume that we'll be supporting it throughout the year. I don't mean just fixing any issues people will find. We expect people will start playing with our engine and editor, which will surely result in many things we'll need to deal with, including issues, questions, and new features to document. Game engine development is a never-ending story, and we already have many features being requested from our internal teams. We know about current bottlenecks that we'd like to address, and we also have a few ideas on how to push Infusion forward. But I don't expect us to add something truly groundbreaking this year. If we do, we'll certainly let you know. Now, what can we take away from all of this information, these photos, this blog? What are my thoughts about it? Let's get into a little bit of speculation here. So again, everything in the future of what I'm about to say is speculation. What are we going to see in the future? In my opinion, what I think is going to happen is that this information, the screenshots we've seen, line up very closely with the word reforger. Reforger is the patented, publicly available official document from Prague of what Bohemia has claimed as copyright. They are making some sort of game project that's going to be called Arma Reforger. Reforger is that Cold War era German exercise. It lines up pretty dang close to Operation Flashpoint Cold War Crisis. I think that this demo is going to be a remake of Arma Cold War Crisis. I don't think that's really reaching that far either. We have the Everon map obviously here. That photo is exactly that valley. And this isn't just me expecting this either. This is what a lot of people have been discussing in Discords and the Reddit, although I don't really look at the Reddit very often. It's pretty dang obvious that this is some sort of either full remake or some sort of like homage to Cold War Crisis back in the day. Now, Pavel did say that it comes with an editor, so I'm hoping that we can make our own missions on this, that it'll be enough to kind of feed us in terms of content for the next year or so to come. I'm surprised that this isn't an Arma 4. I'm surprised that we aren't getting any hints about whatever next big Arma game is going to be, because obviously I don't think that this is Arma 4, otherwise they would name it Arma 4. But this lines up pretty close to what the rumors, what we've heard before, are that this is, as Pavel said it, a demo to feed us and help Bohemia work on this Infusion engine as they develop something bigger. Honestly, I'd be pleased with whatever this game is going to be if it came out with the same exact assets that were available in Cold War Crisis. I'm talking US Army guys, right? I'm talking Russia, mainland forces, armed forces, Russian Federation. You've got like militia, like I don't know what they were called in Cold War Crisis. I didn't really play enough of it. Some BTRs, some BMPs, Bradleys, and tanks and helicopters. If we just had that, if we had those amount of assets in the game, I'd be happy, right? Very basic amounts of actual military forces, enough to get us going with basic scenarios. What I would love to see is not just an editor, like Pavel says, already that's confirmed, as he did say that we're going to be playing with an engine and an editor, but I would like to see multiplayer stability. We've had a lot of problems with large player counts that are available in Arma 3, but I can pretty much vouch for anyone who's hosted an Arma mission with more than 40 or so players that there are sometimes just server bugs that just crash the game. You start getting near 100 players on one server and everything just breaks. Everything just snaps in half. I have no idea. You can have the most powerful server box and the CPU will be at like 10% with 100 players. It is crazy. And then the server will crash and you're just like, what's going on? Why can't you do this? I know that's a very complex issue, right? 100 players in a server is a lot of information, but I hope that stuff like the server FPS cap and multiplayer stability, large player counts, the ability to have large player counts, I hope that that stuff is smoothened out. I also think that an editor alone hopefully isn't what we're going to get. I really would like a live game master like we had in Arma 3 with the Zeus package. Zeus is amazing. I think Zeus is the biggest thing to ever come to the Arma franchise since freaking Chernarus. Like this one feature has been basically the fuel for my entire channel. This is what made my channel blow up, is operations created in Zeus. It allows for a player to basically be a dungeon master in Dungeons and Dragons, but in Milsim. It's such a cool feature. I really hope that we come to play this game, and one of the first things I see on the menu is, here's the tutorial of how to use Arma Reforger's Zeus. I think that would be amazing, and I hope that we get a Zeus very badly. Another thing is, I'm very excited to just play on new maps. Like I was saying earlier, I mean, we are still playing Arma Ops on maps from 2013, 2006, 2008, or whenever, 2009, when Arma 2 came out. We're still playing on maps that are way too old for modern day gaming. Extremely simple maps with no ground clutter, with very old buildings that are unenterable and not fun to play around. These photos and these graphics look extremely promising. I also hope that with these graphics comes much greater performance, much better optimization for modern PCs. You can even tell with the original Arma Cold War Assault Cold War Crisis game, you go back to 2001 on a modern PC and you turn the view distance up to 5,000, you will hit 14 FPS. You cannot play this game with the max view distance. It runs worse than the max view distance in Arma 3. Obviously, it's because it's not optimized to be played on a 16 core system, but it just shows that these games have still kept the same sort of optimization feeling since 2001, and maybe this new engine, this new renderer, DX12, oh yeah baby, maybe this will actually enable us to play Arma at smooth frame rates on mid-tier systems, which I think they've heard our feedback. They've spent all these years, all 8 of them since Arma 3, with the idea of making this engine because they wanted to do something themselves that would be made from the ground up for this game. I mean, just last week I was playing Arma 3 modded in a operation with probably 30 players, right? Flying a little bird around. The game suddenly drops to about 3 FPS. We suddenly start flying around in a city that the buildings are all flickering in and out. And obviously this is modded Arma 3, but still, this is an Arma 2 map that's bugging out in Arma 3. You got 2 FPS. I mean, there's just a pile of problems that sometimes occur in Arma 3 that you just can't fix. You don't even know what made them happen. We restarted the mission, we played it again, and it never happened again. I'm happy with anything at this point. I think that Bohemia has been very quiet about this because, you know, maybe it was a little slow in development until now. But I think everybody is going to be excited for this. I think that they're underestimating the positive feedback that I've heard personally from Arma people that have seen these photos. They're hyped. No matter what this runs at, no matter what this is, people are excited for it. I mean, I know I'm not a game dev. I just feel like everybody's been waiting so long for something that anything at this point will make Arma players happy. And that's it. That's my thoughts. That's my speculation. That's my review of these photos. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And I am going to start editing this video, and then I'm going to go to sleep. Have a good day. Have a good night. Ukrainians, be safe. And I'll see you in the next one.